Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 28th River Falls City Council meeting. First thing we do is we usually say the Pledge of Allegiance. PAC 54 is here tonight working on merit badges, and they would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice job.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming tonight. Okay, can we have a roll call, please, Christy?
Bierstead,
Here.
Bjork,
Here.
Carroll,
Here.
Downing,
Here.
Morissette,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Odine.
Here.
Okay, next we have approval of the minutes from the March 14th regular meeting.
I so move. Second.
First, second on the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next we have the approval of the bills to Mr. Carroll.
Mayor and council, I motion for approval of bills in the amount of $1,294,110.38, subject to the comptroller.
Second.
First and second on the bill. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So now is when we usually go into public comments. The only thing I'd like to mention is a lot of people here tonight. So we do have, besides public comments, we have public hearings on three different items tonight. Here, hang on a second. Let me make sure I name them right. So we have the ordinance on the, let's start at the beginning here. We have the ordinance on the updating comprehensive plan. That's one of the public hearings. Another public hearing is the annexation of land and right-of-way in the town of Troy. And the third one is the annexation of the western portion of land and right-of-way in the town of Troy. So we got three. If you're here for one of those, if you'd rather wait and talk during the public comments then, that's fine. You can also get up here and talk, whichever one you prefer. So right now we'll have public comments for anybody that's interested. If they want to come up.
Good evening, council persons. I have written my statement so I can keep it as brief as possible. As the director of the River Falls Public Library, I would like to take this opportunity to make a brief statement in support of the City of River Falls Comprehensive Plan. I am looking forward to incorporating many of the goals and themes identified in the Comprehensive Plan into the 2023-2027 Library Strategic Plan. Here are some of the things that the library can and will do. We will support private-public partnerships in the development of community makerspaces, reimagine the public library's role in displaying artifacts of local history and providing related programs, expand our partnerships with local organizations that focus on natural and cultural resources, develop more programs about our pre-European history, reimagine library spaces to promote local art, music, and history. At the heart of American public libraries, you will find a passion for arts, literature, history, knowledge, and the creative process. I enthusiastically support the city's comprehensive plan, and I look forward to doing our part to make this vision a reality. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, anybody else in the audience? Okay, we'll move on. First we're gonna have is St. Croix County Public Safety referendum information that's on April 4th, next Tuesday's election. And Ken Witt, who's the St. Croix County Administrator, will give us a little presentation here.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for having us in tonight. I'm Ken Witt. I'm the County Administrator, and with me is Sheriff Knudsen. I got to keep my eye on him, and also our Public Information Officer, Adam Kostanek. So we wanted to just share a little bit of information about the public safety referendum in St. Croix County. As all of you know, because you're part of St. Croix County, you've been contributing towards it. St. Croix County is one of the fastest growing counties in the entire state. If you measure it really over the last 5 years, St. Croix County is the fastest growing out of all 72 counties. So with that growth comes some really good things, but it also brings some challenges. So one of the things that we've been dealing with, and you know too, because cities deal with this also, but is the levy limits. So under the levy limits, we can only go up by our growth rate, our net new construction. So the county's been averaging 2 to 3% pretty consistently over the years. We have some really fast-growing parts of the county and some not as fast-growing parts of the county. That 2 to 3% per year for all the new properties that get built, that's really helped us keep pace with inflation. That's a really good thing when you compare us to some of the other counties around us, and especially to the north. But what it hasn't done is allowed us to grow with the population. Our population 20 years ago was almost half of what it is now. So we're pushing 96,000 people right now, and we have not been able to grow at the same pace in our public safety area. So the state gives us avenue for that. They give us the ability to go to referendum and ask the voters if they would support a tax levy increase for a specific purpose. And so in the 18 years since levy limits have been put in place, this is the first time St. Croix County is going to go ask the voters for this exception. It's all public safety related, which is more than just the sheriff. It does cover a lot of other areas, but I'm going to let the sheriff speak to just a couple of the reasons why that we feel there's a need for public safety enhancement.
Thank you. And as Administrator Witt had mentioned, as we look at our population growth, I've been in with the Sheriff's Office now for 27 years. So back when I started in 1996, St. Croix County was just a little bit below 54,000 population. Now we're touching 95,000. So over that 27 years, we've grown 40,000 people. I'm going to benchmark 2007 in that time span, because since 2007, we have added one patrol deputy to our patrol force. We've added other ancillary deputies for other areas, court services, stuff like that, but patrol, those that are answering calls, we've added one. In that time span, our cases since 2007, right now we're doing calls for service at 25,000, over 25,000 calls for service. We've gone up since 2007, 18% in our calls. As we look at our crashes, we're touching about 2,500 right now, and 500 of those are injury crashes, and those have gone up 27% since that 2007 mark. We kind of compare ourselves, as we look at our jurisdiction, we take out the areas that have police protection, such as River Falls, Hudson, and we look at where the county serves, the county population. And then we compare ourselves to our surrounding neighbors, Eau Claire, Polk, Dunn, Pierce, Washington County, La Crosse. And we look at the numbers of officers they have per calls for service. They're averaging about, in one of the slides, and there's about 400 calls per deputy per year. St. Croix County has about 600 calls per deputy per year. We're doing more calls with less people. We look at average deputy per population as well, and we're below that one. Right now we're working 12-hour shifts for our rotations, and with that we used to do 8.5 hours. Now going to 12, that's given us a little more. So when we are at full staff, we have seven or eight. But that doesn't count FMLA, injuries, vacations, court, all those things, when many times we're working at minimum staffings at 4. We were working at 4 last night. And with that comes strain on the officers and really response to calls. We are more reactive now than we are proactive. Takes us longer to get to calls. We rely more on our partners. We work very well together. Today we did Internet Crimes Against Children warrant, River Falls and us. Last week we had a high-risk search warrant that our Pierce County, River Falls, and our agency teamed up on. So we work together and we rely on each other. But part of that is also drawing your resources out of your areas when we're working at that 4 or 5 minimums. Our calls that we have requested mutual aid on has gone from over 200 to, I think, 600. Or is it 2,000 to 6,000? 200 to 600 over that time span. So we're calling more for more help out so we can get there. And it's drawing on your resources as well. Some of our more draining and more resourceful taxing calls are mental health. and you hear about the mental health and the substance abuse that we have throughout the county. And one of the things that Chief Young has championed is the mental health component. And he's gone to Madison and battled this to get those in crisis more resources, closer resources. When we talk about closer resources, we took our last 30 crisis calls. And that's from the time we walk in the door to the time we clear the call. And if there's an emergency detention, and this may be preaching to the choir with having Gordy here, we have 3 places to take them: Amory, Eau Claire, or down to Winnebago. But our average over the last 30 calls, our time on that call is 13 and a half hours. So even when a shift starts, for us, a shift doesn't end it. River Falls is the same thing. So that's draining on resources. And when we go across the state, that's not a 1, that's a 2-person deal. So that eats into our 4 or 5 or 6 that are out. And I'm just gonna touch on substance real quick. As we talk about fentanyl and some of the things that I wanna be more proactive and not reactive. Fentanyl, as we're all hearing now, is ripe throughout our area. In 2022, we seized 144 grams of fentanyl. This year, we're up to 210 grams already. There's 1,000 milligrams in 1 gram. It takes 2 milligrams to be a lethal dose. So we have already, just in St. Croix County, seized enough to kill 105,000 people. We need to be more proactive in these areas. And with these additional resources, that's kind of what we'd like to gear towards, is being more proactive. So I'll turn it back to Administrator Witt.
The sheriff makes a really compelling argument about where these needs are. So what we're asking for with the public safety referendum is the addition of 24 additional positions. So 8 of those are sheriff's deputies that would be on the patrol. 4 are corrections deputies in the jail, 3 investigators, 2 pretrial case managers. There's 2 support staff. There are 2 deputy clerk of courts. There's 1 CHIPS attorney, which is Children in Protective Needs, and then 2 mental health co-responders, as the sheriff talked about some of the mental health needs that we have. So that does come with a cost. So the cost of this is just over $3.5 million. Now that cost, when you break it down over the entire county, comes out to just under $25 per 100,000 of value. So it's real easy. You can take a look at, what the value of your property is. It's a $400,000 property. That's about $100 a year. The average value in St. Croix County is $266,000. So that's about $65 a year. So the ask is about $65 per year for the average homeowner. And we know that there's clearly a need for it, and we know that not everyone's going to support this. Everyone has to make their own personal choices about their budget, but the request is on average that $65 to support this addition of public safety and address some of these needs that the sheriff had. Are there any questions that you have? We did have handouts that we gave you, and we left some additional in the back. There's more information available on the county's website also.
Got a question, Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is for the sheriff or for city or county administrator, but how are you? What's your staffing levels today, Sheriff? Are you fully staffed? Will this also give you some room for salary compensation, given the pull from the Twin Cities? How are you doing on staffing? Is this positions plus some salary compensation adjustments?
I'll leave the salary to this guy over here. But as far as staffing, right now we are 1 patrol deputy short.
Okay, not bad.
Not bad, but just like, WITC here and, or Chippewa Valley Tech here in River Falls, they're not doing law enforcement as I know it now. There's just not a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
We had 14 show up for an application this last time. 22 had applied, 14 showed up, 3 of those are certified. So, and the ones that are certified, we're all clamoring for.
Yep.
As you guys know as well. So It is a challenge for recruitment, retention. Retention, we're doing pretty good, but it's the recruitment and getting people to get into the profession.
Thank you. And as far as salary, competitive salary, does this give you the ability to be a little more competitive? Or are these just the positions as stated in salaries today?
These are just the positions as stated on the union pay schedule
Okay.
currently, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
the
much for your time
information.
this evening. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next, our economic developer, Carrie, where are you, Carrie? Carrie Schreiner is gonna give us an update on the Mann Valley project.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Like the Mayor mentioned, tonight I'll be providing an update on the Mann Valley Corporate Park project. In 2011 and 2013, the city purchased the land for Mann Valley Corporate Park. And since then, staff has been working on the creation of this corporate park, which will be the city's 4th and largest corporate park. Last year, you approved the updated concept plan, which includes uses for light industrial and manufacturing, mixed-use development, including commercial and medium to high-density residential, low-density residential, institutional use, and conservancy areas. Since staff has last formally presented information to council on the Mann Valley Corporate Park project, staff has been working with SCH Inc. on finalizing the design plans, coordinating with and communicating to adjacent property owners, obtaining easements, bidding the project, and more. The construction of the Mann Valley Corporate Park will be one of the largest infrastructure projects that the city has completed and will include 35,000 cubic yards of earthwork, which is in the yellow, 2.5 miles of sanitary sewer with a wastewater pumping station, 4.5 miles of water main with a pressure reducing station, 3,900 feet of roadway construction, and the construction of approximately 2 miles of utility maintenance multipath use trail. So where do we go from here? So tonight you have the first reading for the annexation of Mr. Moulter and the city properties, which are adjacent to the Mann Valley Corporate Park. The second reading will be on April 11th. This Thursday is the construction bid opening. The 2022-2026 capital improvement plan included $13.9 million for the construction of Mann Valley Corporate Park in 2023 and 2024. The 90% cost estimates provided by SCH for the construction of streets, stormwater, water, sewer, and also including construction management is approximately $16.5 million. The UAB will review these bids at their meeting first on April 17th. Staff will then be holding a workshop with council to discuss the Mann Valley Corporate Park project in further detail, including the bids, the proposed tax increment district, and more on May 9th. You will review the bids and consider the creation of the tax increment district on at the May 23rd council meeting. And awarding the construction contract and the notice to proceed is proposed for June and July, with construction to be completed in October of 2024. And with that, Mayor, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, thanks, Carrie. Next, we'll move on to close the council hearing and open up a public hearing on ordinance 2023-03. This is an update to the city's comprehensive plan to replace the 2005 comprehensive plan. First thing we're gonna do though is Amy Peterson, our community development director, will give us a little presentation on it. Well, not a little one. She'll give us a nice presentation on this.
Mayor and
Become very
council, thank
comprehensive.
you for providing me just a moment to celebrate us getting to this point in time today. So it's been just about an 18-month process, updating 3 very important plans for the city, and we're happy to be here. There are so many people that have been a part of this process that I want to thank, and I'm sure, just as in a Grammy speech, I'll forget somebody, but here we go. Obviously, the council for leading this process, number one, the community as well, and all the people that have participated, coming out to the meetings, jumping in online, doing what they can, providing us their input is what makes the plans what they are today. City staff, the planning and community development team, especially Emily, Sam, and Kendra that were right there in the trenches, getting things up on the website, etc. All of the departments from Public Works, Recreations, Fire Department, or PD, Library, Utilities, that all jumped in, staff ready and willing, on top of their other duties to provide the information needed to go into these plans. Our communications manager, Catherine, helped as well, making sure that the public was aware of social media items. And last but not least, our consultant team of SRF Consulting Group and Alta Planning and Design, of which we have Stephanie Folkers and Maria Wardokud here this evening, that will help provide you some more information on the plans and process. They and their teams helped us get through this immensely. So the team is here to present the process and to answer any questions that you may have as you consider these important plans and the adoption of them this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, and good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Stephanie Folkers with SRF Consulting Group, and we'll try to keep it brief, Mayor. We won't go too long, but we're going to try to hit on all three of the plans and give you an overview here, and also make sure we touch on enough information for any members of the public who haven't seen any of our presentations to this point. But we've got 5 steps that we'll hit. Overall here, we want to make sure that we kind of overview the entirety of the Focus River Falls process, the great work that is done, and then we will step through each of the plans that you are taking action on tonight. And I'm very excited to have Maria with us tonight, so I'll hand it over to her for the bike and pedestrian plan, and then we'll wrap up with next steps as well. So really, the Focus River Falls process has been a really exciting 18 months of working with the community to update 3 plans, the comprehensive plan, outdoor recreation plan, and the bike and pedestrian plan, each of which have some really important direction that we're including for the community and some really specific actions that'll be exciting to work on moving forward. But just to hit on the overall process that we went through over the last 18 months was really kind of a 4-step process, starting with data collection. So this was our opportunity to learn about River Falls' history, where we're going, and the community and physical spaces within. Then working on the development of goals and strategies for understanding where we wanted to go as a community and what we wanted to achieve over the next 5 to 20 years. Then really exploring what the specific solutions are across each of the plans, and then putting them together into the full plans that are before you this evening. Hopefully people also had the opportunity to engage with the process in lots of different ways. That 4 steps is really our technical process, but these are plans that are really driven from community engagement. So that process and input that we heard along the way was really critical to driving the plans that are before you. So I wanted to highlight Engage RF, which was our primary form of online communication throughout the process. So this was kind of the one-stop shop for information. You could learn more about the plans. You could engage and interact with the plans as well. So that was a great tool for us along the way. But we also had a lot of different physical engagement throughout the process as well. So in Appendix B or C, of the comprehensive plan, I think it's the 3rd item in, kind of gives you the overview of every event that we held throughout the process, from steering committee meetings to community updates. But we really had kind of 3 phases of engagement. When you add up those interactions, we're over 2,000 interactions from the different physical events that we held throughout the 18 months. And we also did some mailers and different promotions to increase our exposure of the Focus River Falls process to over 5,000 residents, or really that's 5,000 households, as there were multiple utility mailers and postcards, different things that went out to both community members and our partners just outside of the city as well. And this input was really critical as we engaged, as Amy mentioned, a lot of different entities throughout this process, from city staff to our local education institutions, the community as a whole, our steering committees, different stakeholders representing, our housing sector, our large tract property owners, recreational uses. So this plan is really the culmination of a lot of input from these different areas as well. I want to make sure that we highlight our steering committees that were a critical part in guiding these processes. Each of the plans themselves had their own steering committee, whether that is the Plan Commission for the comprehensive plan, the Park Board for our outdoor recreation plan, and a community group that was created to be the steering committee for the bike and pedestrian plan. These were really great groups to work with and really guided our process overall. So that's kind of our overall Focus River Falls process. Now we'll dive into the contents of the comprehensive plan. So what is a comprehensive plan? So really it's our guide to physical, social, and economic development. So as we're making decisions in investing in physical and social space, what are the goals that we have? And that's what's identified within the comprehensive plan. So it is a document that's required by state statutes in order for us to have zoning and to provide that guidance specifically on zoning, but it does broaden beyond just that land use component and includes the 9 required plan elements, which I will talk about here in the presentation as well. State statutes do ask that this plan be updated every 10 years, just to make sure we're staying relevant with current context and things, and really needs to be that guide for official mapping, subdivision, and zoning actions. So while state statutes require it to be something that you as a council and your plan commission and other committees should be referencing, and staff on a regular basis, it's also meant to be something that the community can connect with and understand what the goals are for River Falls moving forward. So we identified 6 specific goals within the comprehensive plan to kind of set that vision for where we want to go moving forward. I won't read through each of the goal statements, but there were really kind of 6 themes that approached very early on in the planning process. And you'll also see some of these themes pop up when we talk about the goals in the other 2 plans as well, which is really exciting. Starting with connection, desire to be able to connect to people and spaces and experiences within the community, having a focus on livability, that we can all find our space to thrive within the community, that we have access within the community, whether that's to social services, to our housing choices, transportation choices, that we have different forms of access, a connection to resources, and our natural resources were really highlighted very early on through community engagement and the ability to be good stewards of those resources that were here before us, but also maintaining connections to those resources as well. An emphasis on partnerships. What's identified in these 3 plans could be done alone, but it'd be a lot easier if we could partner with others to help achieve success. And then also a focus on resiliency or sustainability. This is an area where the city has done a lot of great work already, but we want to make sure that we're continuing to plan for and adapt to change along the way. The comprehensive plan does include 11 chapters that are highlighted here on screen, and 3 specific appendices. So these chapters do align with the 9 required plan elements within state statutes, all the way from our goals or issues and opportunities down to implementation. But there are the 7 required plan elements from housing, transportation, utilities, and facilities that we highlight throughout. I won't go through each of them here, but did want to also recognize that we did include recreation as its own chapter. That is not something that's required by state statutes, but the emphasis on recreation and connection to natural resources was really highlighted very early on through our engagement process. And so we wanted to make sure that that had space within the comprehensive plan, and really does connect to the outdoor recreation plan. But of course, that plan focuses on the outdoor space, where we want to make sure this recreation chapter thinks more broadly as well. So I just wanted to highlight here kind of the format. So we took a little bit of a different format for the comprehensive plan than you maybe are used to in the 2005 document. And the intent here was really to try to make this a little bit more of an accessible document, not a big ream of paper that you have to slam down. But providing enough content for the community to understand, but still having the technical components and meat to the plan that staff might need for running future analyses, but just in a different way. So we do have the plan element chapters that will provide the right level of context to kind of give you the right information to understand where we're going in terms of housing or land use, providing you that context and an overview of the strategies and goals. But they're meant to align with our technical memorandums, which are in Appendix A, that are going to be the much longer detail, more of your number crunching and things like that. So if you're really interested and want to dig into it deeper, that's where you're going to find that additional information. Those technical memorandums are generally twice as long as the chapter. So if you were to think that we would, the old way of doing this, we would have included all of that as the plan. So our comp plan would be twice as long as it is today if we hadn't taken this approach. We won't go through the details of what the highlights are in each of the chapters, but we just called out housing and land use as an area for us to highlight some of the changes that we were looking at. So from a housing perspective, a couple of the key things that we were working on, or strategies or solutions that we were identified, were really a focus on housing access and trying to increase access from both a level of affordability, providing housing options that people can afford, but also meet some of the styles or formats that they'd like to see. So that concept of missing middle, a very planner term, but is really looking at the space between your traditional single family home and an apartment. And this is an area that helps us provide sometimes more affordable housing options, but also some different types. So everything from your townhouses to your duplexes, even some of your accessory dwelling units or tiny homes all kind of fit within this space. And then from a land use side, so the city attorney would probably echo me in saying that this is the critical point from a decision making on that zoning piece. It's the whole reason why we do a comprehensive plan, but really kind of focused in 5 areas and providing some additional detail in terms of our development regulations. So not only do we include a future land use plan that identifies those future growth areas, but what is the look and feel that we want to get out of that development from our zoning ordinance. Making sure that we are thinking about community connectivity and thinking about how the spaces and development connect with each other. We did increase our residential density. So the 2005 comprehensive plan maxed us out at 12 units per acre from a residential density standpoint. And our high density category within the updated plan does start at 12 units per acre. So just allowing the opportunities for some increased density throughout the community. We did take a look at our planning boundaries and did update the urban area boundary as part of this plan. That is not a statutory boundary. That was a planning boundary established in the 2005 plan, but we did expand that, and that really is setting kind of the growth area that we're looking at within the community. And then also making sure we introduced mixed-use development as an option. We just heard that from the Mann Valley that you were already talking about mixed use, but making sure that that's really highlighted within our long-range policy vision. We did make some updates to the comprehensive plan since it was presented to the public back in February through the open house, and so I just wanted to highlight these at a high level. I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide about the future land use plan and urban area boundary updates. We did make some small tweaks to increase density in a couple areas in that future land use plan. We went through and added some additional city details throughout, so thank you to the library director, but we also added, that's an example where we added in some additional detail about the resources and great asset that the library provides. We made sure to add some conversation on diversity, equity, and inclusion, specifically within our workforce development and the economic development section. We made some updates to the small area plans in both some physical updates and some narrative updates as well. We reinforced some of the references to technical memorandums within the chapter to make sure that people can make that connection back and forth. And then also made a couple of tweaks to the implementation plan. Generally speaking, I think we're at 100 implementation activities. Most of them stayed the same. There were a couple that were added there at the end. But I did want to take a pause quick and highlight some updates that we made to the future land use plan and those boundary updates. So if you paid attention to the plan back in February, this was really focused around that urban area boundary, which is identified here in green. But we did add an additional land use category to the future land use plan and the constraints map. I believe you have a copy of these in front of you as well, where we added a city edge growth preservation area that really covers the space between our extraterritorial subdivision boundary and our urban area boundary. And that is really meant to serve as a planning boundary that's identifies that it's a future growth area for us. We're not ready to specifically identify what those land uses are because it's too far out, but we wanted to recognize that that's an area that we want to just be mindful of and make sure that we're thinking of moving forward. From the outdoor recreation plan perspective, this is a document that we are providing an update here, but this is aligns with the Wisconsin DNR's requirement for a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. This is a document that they require to be updated every 5 years to make you eligible for some grant funding. So we wanted to make sure, one goal here was to make sure that the plan was eligible with the DNR's requirements, but it was also specific to River Falls as a whole. So from a key kind of themes and kind of what our goals are structured under, we wanted to make sure that we were recognizing both our existing and new facilities. We wanted to make sure that we were recognizing and being good stewards of the investment that the community has already made, but thinking about those new opportunities as well. Working in the green corridors, which is a concept that was introduced within the agricultural, natural, and cultural resources section of the comprehensive plan, but really highlights our open space and that connection to outdoor recreation opportunity. Again, our natural resources, and then thinking about that overall system in terms of connectivity, in terms of our goals. The plan did include getting a little into the weeds here, a needs assessment that was based on both a qualitative and quantitative assessment. So we were able to pull some metrics to just see how we compare to communities of similar size across the United States. Do we have the same, how do we compare in terms of the number of basketball courts or the number of baseball fields, things of that nature. But then also a lot of community input to understand experiences from the recreation system, and really helped us identify what we might need out of our recreation system and where we want to go moving forward. And that really helped us identify the recommendations and priorities that are within the outdoor recreation plan that are really can fit into 5 buckets here. One great thing that we had to start with is there's been a lot of great work already done in the community from an outdoor recreation standpoint. So we have our 3 existing master plans that include recommendations that are still relevant today. So we were able to move those into the plan as well. The Kinney Corridor Plan was also an effort where the community put a lot of investment, so made sure that those recommendations were moved forward into the outdoor recreation plan. And then we also identified some new recommendations or strategies through this process, and so those fit within the all parks and recreation recommendations. So that includes everything from thinking about accessible park spaces or playgrounds for all abilities and all ages, to everything to identifying your next regional park location. So a broad spectrum there. We did also identify some opportunity projects where we don't quite have enough information yet today, but they're definitely things that if the opportunity arises, we want to make sure we capitalize on. So if somebody decides to drop $5 million off in Scott's office and you can build a community center, we've got at least the direction to give you the opportunity to, but somebody's got to drop off that $5 million. We made a couple of tweaks to the outdoor recreation plan from the public comment period, including some updates to the implementation section, adding a couple pieces there. We expanded some of the recreation partners that we included. So partnerships is a big part of this plan. So just making sure that we've got some people included there, making sure we included reference to the community forest and school forest just outside of city limits, but a great connection and asset for the community as well. And then made some updates to the park map itself. And with that, I will hand it over to Maria.
All right, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Maria Wardoku. I'm a planner with Alta Planning and Design. Had the pleasure of getting to work with this community for the last 18 months or so to develop the bike and pedestrian plan. Go to my next slide. All right, so I'm going to start with what is guiding the plan, and that is the vision statement. Our vision statement is that walking and biking are comfortable modes of transportation that connect people of all ages and abilities to one another and to everyday destinations via safe, accessible infrastructure. And we presented that vision statement and our goals for the plan to the public, and overwhelmingly we found that people said they either loved it or they like it, and that really confirmed the direction of this plan as one that is focused on walking and biking for everyday transportation. The plan has 5 goals that support the vision, and some of these might echo what you heard with the comprehensive plan. So we were looking at accessibility, connectivity, connecting people to each other to where they need to get to every day, health and safety, sustainability, and also economic vitality. We took a look at a lot of data for the community. One of our initial tasks was really to analyze the data that was available to understand the conditions for walking and biking in River Falls today. So we did analyses like a level of traffic stress analysis, demand, equity, looking at crashes, to highlight those existing issues and the areas of greatest need. We were fortunate to have really great participation from the public, and staff already highlighted much of that. But for this particular plan, as we analyzed the data and we reviewed previous plans that this community has adopted, we engaged River Falls community members through walking and biking tours, online, through open houses, and people pointed out many locations where walking and biking improvements are really needed, and especially we heard a lot about Main Street, Powell Avenue, Division, Cascade, Cemetery Road. And people also shared they want to see new and expanded bike and skate parks developed within the city. So building off of all that work, we produced network recommendations, and those were aimed at connecting the neighborhoods, the parks, the schools, the commercial areas with bicycle and pedestrian facilities that are accessible, comfortable for people of all ages and abilities. Those recommendations fall into 2 categories. We've got our spot improvements, and those are located at roadway or river crossings. And then we have our linear improvements, and those are located along a roadway. We have 35 spot improvement recommendations, and that includes enhanced crossings. Those would be at mid-block or minor street intersections. Intersection improvements that are at signalized or major street intersections. We have 1 grade-separated crossing over the highway, and then bridges over the rivers, really aligning with the Kinney Corridor Plan. We identified about 70 miles of recommended linear facilities, and the majority of those are shared use paths. It's important to know that the recommended facility types are really starting points that are based on high-level planning analysis. So the ultimate facility type will be determined through in-depth analysis on a project-by-project basis. So this is your starting place, but not necessarily where you'll end up on every single project. The plan includes a lot of improvements which can be implemented as what we call quick build or demonstration projects. And those are, it's a type of project that allows cities to make infrastructure changes on a really compressed timeline with a minimal budget. So like here I'm showing an example of where a city did curb extensions, also called bump outs, using temporary materials. And then when the funding was in place and it was the right time for their capital improvement plan, they turned that into a permanent infrastructure change. For those projects that require greater capital investment, we have included some information in the plan on local, state, and federal funding sources. And there's really more ways right now to fund and build these projects than ever before. And I feel pretty confident that with this plan and combined with the comprehensive plan and the Parks and Recreation plan, River Falls is really well positioned to secure those funds. The big takeaway though with implementation is that it's an ongoing effort, and it'll involve infrastructure investment, maintenance of facilities, grant funding applications, and more. The last thing I'll touch on is project implementation. So we were trying to help guide implementation by prioritizing infrastructure projects on the degree to which they directly connect to an essential destination and improve safety for people walking and biking. And then we also considered complexity to understand the level of effort that these projects would take. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we put those together. So our high priority projects that are low complexity, we think of them as our quick wins. So not a huge investment, not a ton of, say, coordination with other agencies, things like that. So we have some opportunities to build bicycle boulevards, bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, to do a quick build, protected bike lane, crossing enhancements, other improvements that fall into that high priority, low complexity category. Then when we move up to more of a medium complexity, our more complex high benefit improvements, that might include some sidewalk infill where we haven't identified a funding source yet, other buffered bike lanes or shared use paths. Maybe we need to secure some right-of-way, for example, for a shared use path. So that makes it a little bit more complex. And then our third category is those major high benefit projects. It's going to take some work and some planning, but it's still going to deliver a big benefit. So examples of that would be street reconstructions fall into that category. Main Street, Cedar Street came up as great opportunities for reconstruction. And then also some of that construction of the Kinney River corridor plan paths and river crossings. The last piece to emphasize with implementation is how do we prioritize the policy and program recommendations. So again, we're looking at them in terms of priority level and then their complexity or how difficult they might be to actually implement. So generally, recommendations that are easier to implement are going to require little coordination with partners outside of the city, and they're not very costly. And then those recommendations that provide a higher benefit are those that either directly lead to changes in the built environment or they support the city's capacity to make those changes. We have those same categories here, the quick wins, the more complex high benefit improvements, major high benefit projects, similar to how we prioritized the infrastructure projects. So just a few examples for quick wins, revising subdivision ordinances, updating the zoning policy, developing a complete streets policy. It's kind of internal to the city processes would fall into that quick wins category. And I also wanted to highlight just an example of how we tweaked the plan a little bit and in response to some of the recommendations we got from public comments. For example, we heard that year-round maintenance of active transportation facilities is really important for equitably serving the River Falls residents who must walk and bike for transportation all year round. And so we added a little bit of language to the plan to emphasize the importance of year-round accessibility. So you'll find that in some of these policy and program recommendations. Example of the more complex high benefit projects would be to create a flexible or a designated pool of city capital funds. Another one is to coordinate with WSDOT around connecting that 65 interchange to North Main Street. And then our major high benefit project was around developing a safe routes to school program. And we learned that the wheels are already in motion for that to happen this year. So that's really exciting. So with that, I'll just thank you for your time before I turn it over back to Stephanie. It was really clear from the public comments that River Falls residents are excited to see this plan implemented. And I'll turn it back to Stephanie.
Thanks, Maria. We just have one slide left and just the what happens next. So lots of you have seen me present lots of times throughout, and there's usually a fair amount of activity here, but you have the 3 plans before you for action tonight, and if you choose to adopt them, it's really the next step is implementation. So it's looking at those 100 actions within the comprehensive plan or the supplementary actions within the bike and pedestrian plan and outdoor recreation plan, and really getting excited for seeing the investment that we prepared for through this process. So I just wanted to end by noting what a pleasure it has been to work with the River Falls community. You really have some great staff here in this building, the community that you have that lives here is really great, and it's been truly a joy for our team to be able to connect with all of you and help you put together this vision. So we thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so we've already closed the council hearing, and the public hearing is open. So the public hearing we're open is for the update to the city's comprehensive plan to replace the 2005 comprehensive plan. So is there anybody in the audience has anything like to say about this?
I think I have to state my name and address,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
Stephanie Johnson, W10439. It's a really easy one to remember, 880th Avenue. I'm here for several different reasons. One, I'm a lifelong community member of River Falls, grew up here, as did Matt. I'm also chair of the tourism committee, and we own a business in River Falls, which has a direct impact by the biking plan, obviously. From our perspective with the business, with the bike shop business, we do frequently get calls and people stopping in asking where they can cycle and bike around River Falls. A lot of times we have printed off the maps from the city website, and they're great, except that a lot of them are on the country roads and safety is kind of a concern. So we talked through how, which roads I would bike on, which ones I would choose not to bike on, questions about how to connect from the garage or downtown Main Street to the university safely. So there's a lot of different connection points that they're asking about. I don't feel like we have a great answer to that, and I think this new plan will help support that. From the tourism committee perspective, we are in a growth spurt with our mountain bike trails that we have access to right now, and it's super exciting. We're attracting people to this region from all over the place. With Kinney State Park and Willow State Park adding, I think it's 26 miles total of single track mountain biking. That's going to be a huge attraction for tourists coming to River Falls. But those tourists are also going to want to be able to cycle around town and also connect then to those mountain bike trails safely. You have anything, Matt?
Covered. You're good.
So we just wanted to say that we fully support the biking and pedestrian plan that's up for adoption at the meeting, and hope that you'll adopt it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay, anybody else in the audience have anything? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and reopen the council hearing on this, and I'll take a motion on this one first.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we adopt ordinance 2023-03, updating the comprehensive plan to replace the 2005 comprehensive plan, as well as the resolution. We don't need separate motions on these.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we do. Okay, that's it.
Second.
Okay, first and second, questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I got a comment. Mr. Mayor, I'm in favor of this plan. I wanted to thank SRF, our city planners, and everyone involved in the volunteer process. This has been a long process and a lot of hard work went into it. I also want to talk a little bit about my proposal when I talked about in our last meeting, and I had time to review it with the city staff. So, Mr. Mayor, after reviewing my proposal of how we could potentially include a vision statement in our city's comprehensive plan for all city departments, I've had an opportunity to see what it could look like reviewing it with the city staff, how a vision statement would best overall function. It turns out, though, we could include it in the city's comprehensive plan, but the vision statement for all our city departments would be better suited and more specific, that it would work best in the city's strategic plan as a planning tool if it was included in a future amendment to the city's strategic plan. In the city's strategic plan, the city's department's vision statements could line up directly with their strategic initiatives, improving the current process we use in the strategic plan. This would look like a workshop or work session with committees, department heads, and council to establish clear visions for each department committee that aligns with the city's overall plan. Ultimately, this would allow the departments to have more alignment in the city planning process and work better as a group. And Mr. Simpson, our city administrator, could you give us an example of how that would work in a strategic plan? A working example?
Well, I think the example that's best probably is you saw as these are nested plans here with the bike and pedestrian and also the outdoor rec, that you have this guiding principles and then the nested plans are related. So much like that, we'd expect that the departments and the committees, boards and commissions would also have, if to the extent they have separate or unique vision or missions, that they would relate to the overall mission set by the council.
Right. Thank you. And with that, I'm in favor of the plans we talked about tonight. And thank you to Mr. Morissette and Diane O'Dean for being part of the planning process for our comprehensive plan.
Okay, anybody else have anything on the comprehensive plan?
I'd like to just
Yep.
add something on this. So I'm in favor of the plan, but I do have an issue when we say the comprehensive plan is a local government's master plan for how the community should change in the future. And I guess I have problems with that. I really think it's more of a guide of how we should change in the future or could change in the future and not should change in the future. And so I know maybe it's just semantics of the words, but I really do think this plan is a guide and not an etched in stone plan. And I hope people realize that in the future, the council will be getting opportunities brought to them that will be part of this plan or this guide, and we might not follow it to a T. And I think that's all right. This is, to me, again, this is a guide.
And, you know, I would agree with what you're saying there, Jeff. And I remember when I went to some of the planning meetings, our mayor talked about how we're working towards these goals. And I think that's important for us to remember when we discuss them. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next I'll take a motion on resolution adopting the 2023 outdoor recreation plan.
So moved.
Second. Okay, questions or comments on the outdoor rec plan?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify that the public hearing was available for people that wanted to comment on these two plans
Yeah,
also.
all three of them, yep. They did, some did comment on the bike and ped. And yeah, if anybody has any other questions on the outdoor rec plan, please come on up.
Just because you're doing three different
Yeah,
motions, I just think that's helpful in the record to make sure
that
if
the
somebody
public
was
hearing's
waiting
open for.
to talk about
Okay.
that they still could do that if you'd like them to.
Yep. So if anybody has had any comments about the outdoor rec plan or the bike and ped plan, feel free to come on up. Okay. So we got a first and second on the outdoor rec plan. Questions or comments from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next is, I'll take a motion on the resolution adopting the bike and pedestrian plan.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, I'll close the council hearing and open up a public hearing on ordinance 2023-04. This is annexation of land and right-of-way in the town of Troy to the city of River Falls. The parcel identification numbers are 04011301000 and 04011329525 at County Highway U and County Highway M, and also applying for zoning classification of A, which is agricultural district. This is the first reading. Is there anybody in the audience has anything like to say about this? Okay, close the public hearing and open up the council hearing. And does council have any questions about this? No? Okay, we'll move on. The next one is we'll close the council hearing and open up a public hearing on ordinance 2023-05. This is annexation of the western portion of land and right-of-way in the town of Troy to the city of River Falls. The parcel information number is 0401132955101 on County Road M, and applying a zoning classification of R3 multifamily high-density Residence District to the westernmost portion and C Conservancy District to the eastern portion of the annexation area. This is the first reading. So is there anybody in the audience has anything like to say about this? Okay, we will close the public hearing and reopen the council hearing for questions from council if they have any. Okay, next we'll go to the consent agenda. First one is acknowledgement of the following minutes. Park and Rec Advisory Board from 2:15, the Library Board from 1:09 and 2:06, the Plan Commission from 2:07, the Historic Preservation Commission from 3:08, the Bid Board from 1:10. Next one is a resolution approving the specific implementation plan for Oak Hill. Next one is a resolution approving the preliminary plat for Oak Hill. Next one is a resolution approving the development agreement for Oak Hill. Next one is a resolution approving the specific implementation plan for the current. Next one is a resolution approving the development agreement for the current. Next one is a resolution directing staff to make a reasonable accommodation for a group home at W9194 Highway 29. Next one is a resolution approving purchase of taxi vehicle. And the next one is a change of agent for Tattersall companies. And the last one is a resolution approving uncollectible EMS accounts for fiscal year 2022. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull number 15, change of agent for Tattersall.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull 8 and 11.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of consent agenda items 7A through E, 9, 10, and 12, 13, 14, and 16.
Second.
first and second, questions or comments on any of it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Carroll, you pulled number 8.
Yes, just wanted a quick reminder for those who are watching the meeting for 8 on what Oak Hill means, what the project is. So.
I can provide from
okay.
the memo. So
Thank you.
Oak Hill Development is a development by Twin Cities Land Development. They've submitted a specific implementation plan and a plat for 110 unit single and 2-family residential development. This is located in South Apollo Road and West Maple Street. So this would be just north of the city's wastewater treatment plant and just to the west of South Apollo or southwest of West Side School. So they've gone through a number of steps in the development process, and these are 3 of the final steps prior to them obtaining building permits and getting public improvement acceptance in this area.
With that, I motion approval for number 8.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Carroll, I assume the same for 11.
Correct.
Yep. Scott, for the current?
It's not a radio station, that's all.
Yeah, this is not a what is it, Minnesota Public Radio Station.
Yeah.
So the current item 11 specifically is adoption of a specific implementation plan for the current. This development is from Capital Investment Partners. They've submitted, you previously approved a general development plan for this area, and now this would be the specific plan, which includes 106 apartment style units with 4 residential buildings. These units are 1 to 3 bedrooms, 52 1 bedrooms, 42 2 bedrooms, 12 3-bedroom units. These apartments are intended for rental occupants. Eau Claire Realty is the property management company. It's owned by Capital Investment Partners, as I indicated. This is a planned unit development, which means they've requested some flexibility for open space requirements. In exchange for that flexibility, the developer will include additional on-site amenities, including a fitness center, tot lot, pet park, sidewalks connecting the buildings to Radio Road. They're also constructing a separate paved bicycle and pedestrian trail parallel to Radio Road and installing and maintaining a nature trail that's available to the public along the adjacent wetland area. So this would be just south let's see, am I bearing correctly? Essentially south of Paulson Road and east of Radio Road. So at the corner of Paulson and Radio Road.
Thank you for that. With a motion approval.
Second.
First and second on the current, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and Mr. Morissette, you pulled number 15.
Yep, could I ask the agent that wants, or the person who wants to be the agent for Tattersall, please step forward? I'm gonna massacre this last name. Is that Satra?
Yeah, Cody Satra.
Cody Satra,
Yep.
thank you. I ask every agent in the city the same three questions on the record. So I'll ask you those same three questions if I could. Do you understand the role of an agent?
Yes.
Do you currently possess a responsible server certificate or the class that you take for that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you understand that if an alcohol-related violation occurs, even if you're not there, you're responsible for it?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. That's all I have. I don't know if anybody else has any questions for her, otherwise I'll make a motion.
Thanks.
Make a motion that we approve the change of agent for Tattersall Companies LLC. Thank you very much.
Second.
Okay, first and second, any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next move on to resolution amending the city's uncollectible policy. Take a motion on that.
Make a motion, we approve the city's amended uncollectible policy. That took a lot to get out. didn't it?
Okay, first and second. Questions or comments on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next we'll go to Comptroller's report. So
Thank you,
Dean.
Mr. Mayor. The Comptroller's report for February 2023. General fund revenues through the end of February were $3,504,859, or 27.4% of total budgeted revenues for the year. Revenues in February included $2,353,635 in general property tax and $276,033 in state facilities revenue. Expenditures through the end of February were $1,827,625, or 14.3% of the total budget expenditures for the year. So, as of February 28th, 2023, net revenues over expenditures were $1,677,234.
Thank you. Oh, okay, next we're gonna recess into closed session per Wisconsin state statutes for the following purposes: considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, to wit, city administrator. And I'll take a motion.
I make a motion, we move into closed session.
Second.
Christie, can we have a roll call, please?
Odine,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Morissette,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Fierstead,
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Okay,